Princess Charlotte was expected to say just one word, but when Camilla heard what the young princess said instead, the entire room reportedly went silent. Before we reveal what Charlotte refused to call Camilla, hit like, subscribe, and tell us what city you're watching from. It was supposed to be an ordinary private family gathering. No cameras, no reporters, no palace announcement. Just Charles, Camilla, William, Catherine, and the children together behind closed doors. Then one seemingly harmless comment changed the atmosphere. Within this dramatized scenario, someone jokingly referred to Camilla in a grandmother-like role while speaking to Charlotte. George barely reacted. William remained quiet. But Charlotte did. She looked toward Camilla and calmly corrected the wording. "She isn't my grandmother." The room went still. Charlotte hadn't shouted. She hadn't intended to embarrass anyone. That almost made the moment more uncomfortable, because there was no childish outburst for the adults to dismiss. She had simply stated what she believed. Catherine immediately glanced toward William. Camilla's smile disappeared. Charles tried to soften the moment, explaining that families could have different kinds of grandparents and relationships. But Charlotte wasn't confused. She knew exactly what she meant. Camilla was Grandpa Charles's wife. She was queen. She was part of the family. But Charlotte refused to give her one particular place. Grandmother. William finally intervened, gently telling Charlotte that nobody was asking her to forget anyone. That sentence caught Camilla's attention. Forget who? Charlotte looked at her father. For a second, William seemed to know exactly what was coming. Catherine did too, because William had made sure his children grew up knowing about the woman they never had the chance to meet. The photographs, the stories, the memories. Charlotte turned back toward Camilla. Then she said the name nobody in the room had expected to hear at that moment. "My grandmother is Diana." Charles lowered his eyes. William said nothing, and Camilla's expression changed completely, because Charlotte hadn't simply refused a title. She had drawn a line between Camilla's place in the royal family and the place she believed would always belong to Princess Diana. For several seconds, nobody answered Charlotte. Not because they hadn't heard her, because everyone had. "My grandmother is Diana." The words were simple, but inside that room, they carried decades of history. Camilla remained composed. Then she looked toward William. "Is that what you've taught her?" William didn't answer immediately. Catherine stepped closer to Charlotte, but she didn't correct her either. That detail mattered, because this wasn't the first time Diana's name had come up inside William's home. In this dramatized scenario, William had made sure George, Charlotte, and Louis knew about the grandmother they never met. They had seen photographs. They had heard stories. And Charlotte had become particularly curious. What was Diana like? What made her laugh? Did she like children? Would she have liked Charlotte? To William, those questions weren't about keeping the past alive against Camilla. They were about giving his children a connection to their own history. But Camilla was hearing something different. She had spent years becoming part of this family. She stood beside Charles as queen. Yet one 9-year-old girl's sentence had exposed a boundary no title could erase. Camilla finally looked at Charlotte. "I've never asked you to forget Diana." Charlotte shook her head. "That isn't what I mean." William's expression changed. He knew there was more. Charlotte hesitated, then explained that Diana wasn't simply someone in old photographs. She was her father's mother. That made her grandmother Diana. And if Charlotte used the same place for Camilla, it felt, at least to her, like she was giving away something that belonged to someone else. The room fell silent again. This time, Camilla didn't look at Charlotte. She looked directly at William. Because the question was no longer about what a child had said. It was about what William believed. And Camilla finally asked him, "Do you believe she should never see me as her grandmother?" William took a moment before answering. But before he could, Princess Anne spoke first, and had been listening from across the room. Until now, she hadn't interrupted. But when Camilla asked whether William believed Charlotte should never see her as a grandmother, and stepped in, "This isn't William's decision." Everyone turned toward her, and looked at Charlotte first. Then Camilla. Within this dramatized scenario, her point was simple. Affection could be encouraged. A family identity could not be ordered. Camilla was Charles's wife. She was queen. She deserved respect from William's children. But none of those things automatically gave her the place Diana held in their family history. Charles shifted uncomfortably. "This doesn't need to become a debate." And looked at him. "It already has." The room went quiet again. Camilla wasn't angry now. She looked hurt. She asked whether and truly believed there would always be a line between her and William's children. Anne's answer was careful. There may be a line around one word. Grandmother. That was different from saying Charlotte couldn't love Camilla, different from saying Camilla wasn't family, and very different from rejecting her as queen. William finally spoke. He had never instructed Charlotte to refuse Camilla, but he had told his children about Diana. He would never apologize for that. Catherine agreed. Charlotte shouldn't be encouraged to hurt anyone, but neither should she be made to feel that remembering Diana was somehow disloyal to Camilla. For the first time, Camilla seemed to understand what everyone was trying to say. Then Charlotte quietly interrupted. There's something I want to show you. William looked at her. What? Charlotte glanced toward Camilla. Something about her expression made Catherine immediately realize this wasn't another argument. It was personal. Charlotte explained that she kept something beside her bed, something William had given her years earlier. Charles suddenly looked toward his son. William knew exactly what Charlotte meant, and Camilla was about to discover that Diana wasn't merely a name Charlotte had learned from family stories. Every night, Charlotte went to sleep with her grandmother's photograph only a few feet away. Charlotte returned carrying a small framed photograph. She didn't hand it to William. She walked directly toward Camilla. Inside the frame was Diana, not the famous princess surrounded by cameras, not the woman from newspaper headlines, just Diana smiling in a quiet family photograph. Camilla stared at it. Within this dramatized scenario, William had given Charlotte the picture years earlier after she began asking questions about the grandmother she had never met. Charlotte kept it beside her bed. Sometimes she asked Catherine what Diana had been like. Sometimes she asked William whether she had Diana's personality. And once, she had apparently asked the question William found hardest to answer. Would she have liked me? William had told her Diana would have adored her. Camilla finally understood. Charlotte's refusal wasn't born in that room. It had been forming quietly for years. To Charlotte, grandmother Diana wasn't an abstract memory. It was a relationship she had constructed from photographs, stories, and the pieces of Diana that William had deliberately preserved. Camilla looked at the picture again. Then she asked Charlotte something nobody expected. Do you think calling me grandmother would make her less important? Charlotte hesitated. A little. The honesty hurt. But Camilla didn't argue. Charles, however, had gone unusually quiet. His attention remained fixed on the photograph. William noticed. Dad. Charles reached for the frame, but stopped before touching it. He recognized that picture. More importantly, he remembered when it had been taken. Charlotte immediately became curious. You knew her then? Charles nodded, and suddenly the entire conversation changed. Until that moment, Charlotte had learned about Diana mostly through William. Now the person standing in front of her carried memories William could never give her. Charlotte stepped closer. What was she really like? Camilla looked toward Charles. William did the same. Because Charles could defend his wife, he could change the subject. Or he could tell his granddaughter about the woman whose place Charlotte was trying so desperately to protect. Charles looked at Diana's photograph once more. Then he made his choice. Sit down, Charlotte. There's something about your grandmother I think you should know. Charles sat beside Charlotte with the photograph between them. For once, nobody interrupted. Within this dramatized scenario, Charles didn't talk about royal scandals or the painful history the adults in the room already knew. He talked about Diana as Charlotte's grandmother. He told Charlotte she had been warm with children, playful, sometimes unpredictable, and capable of making an ordinary moment feel far less royal than everyone expected. Charlotte listened carefully. Would she really have liked me? Charles paused, then smiled. She would have loved knowing you. William lowered his eyes. Even Camilla remained completely silent. But Charles wasn't finished. He explained that remembering Diana didn't require Charlotte to choose sides in battles that happened before she was born. Diana would always be her grandmother. Nobody in that room could change that. Then Charles looked toward Camilla. But remembering one person doesn't mean you have to reject another. Charlotte understood immediately. You mean Camilla? Charles nodded. He wasn't asking Charlotte to call Camilla grandmother. He was asking her not to use Diana's memory as a wall. That distinction seemed to reach her. Charlotte looked at Camilla, then back at the photograph. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then came the question Charles wasn't prepared for. If Diana is my grandmother. Charlotte looked directly toward Camilla. Then who is Camilla to me? Nobody answered. Not William. Not Catherine. Not even Anne. Because suddenly this wasn't about royal titles. It wasn't about queen consort, succession, or palace protocol. It was the simplest family question imaginable, and somehow, it had become the hardest. Charles opened his mouth, then stopped. Camilla watched him carefully. Charlotte waited. Finally, Charles gave an answer. But Camilla only heard the final few words from across the room. And what she thought Charles had just said made her expression change instantly. Because for the first time, Camilla wondered whether even her own husband believed there was no family title Charlotte needed to give her at all. Camilla had only heard part of Charles's answer. And that was the problem. Charlotte was still sitting beside him when Camilla stepped closer. "What did you tell her?" Charles looked up. "The truth." That answer immediately made William uneasy. Within this dramatized scenario, Charles explained that Camilla did not need to become Charlotte's grandmother to have a place in her life. She was his wife. She was queen. She was part of the family. But the relationship between Camilla and Charlotte had to become something of its own. Charlotte looked confused. "So, I don't have to call her grandmother?" Charles shook his head. "No." Camilla's face tightened. For years, she had learned to live beside Diana's memory. In photographs, in documentaries, in William and Harry. Now that same memory was reaching another generation. And for a moment, Camilla wondered whether there would ever be a place that belonged entirely to her. Then Charlotte asked something unexpected. "Does that make you sad?" Camilla wasn't prepared for the question. She could have dismissed it. Instead, she answered honestly. "A little." Charlotte looked down. That changed the mood completely. Until now, she had been protecting Diana. She hadn't considered that protecting one relationship might accidentally hurt another. William stepped forward, but Catherine quietly stopped him. Charlotte needed to handle this herself. She looked at Camilla again. "I don't want you to be sad." Camilla gave a small smile. "Then don't call me something you don't mean." William's expression softened, even and seemed surprised, because Camilla had just surrendered the very title everyone thought she wanted. But then she added something else. She told Charlotte there was one thing she wanted her to understand about Diana, something Camilla had never spoken to her about before. William immediately became alert. "What do you mean?" Camilla didn't answer. Instead, she left the room. Minutes later, she returned carrying a small box. She placed it carefully in front of Charlotte. Charles recognized it. So did William. And suddenly William wasn't looking at Camilla anymore. He was staring at the object inside. Because whatever Camilla had kept all these years, it had once belonged to Diana. William recognized it immediately. Inside the box was a small keepsake connected to Diana, something preserved quietly among old family possessions for years. Charlotte leaned closer. "Was this hers?" Camilla nodded. Within this dramatized scenario, she explained that the object had remained protected not because she wanted to claim Diana's history, but because nobody had ever decided where it truly belonged. Until now, Camilla lifted it carefully and placed it in Charlotte's hands. William said nothing. That silence was different from before. He had spent years making sure his children knew who Diana was. Yet he had never imagined Camilla would become the person handing Charlotte another piece of her grandmother's memory. Charlotte stared at the keepsake. "Why are you giving it to me?" Camilla's answer was simple. "Because I'm not trying to replace her." The room went completely still. That was the sentence Charlotte needed to hear. For years, Camilla had lived beneath comparisons with Diana. But this moment wasn't about winning that comparison. It was about ending it. Charlotte looked toward the photograph she had brought downstairs, then back at Camilla. For the first time, the two women were no longer standing on opposite sides of Diana's memory. Charlotte was protecting it. Camilla was acknowledging it. William finally stepped closer. He asked Camilla why she had waited so long. She hesitated. Because giving Diana's belongings to William had always felt complicated. Too much history, too many wounds. But Charlotte changed that. She wasn't asking who had been right decades ago. She simply wanted to know her grandmother. Charlotte carefully closed the box. Then she did something nobody expected. She reached for Camilla's hand. But she still didn't call her grandmother. Not yet. Instead, Charlotte asked one quiet question. "If I don't call you grandmother, can you still be family?" Camilla looked at her, and her answer would finally decide whether this entire conflict ended in rejection, or in a relationship neither Diana nor any royal title needed to replace. Camilla looked at Charlotte's hand holding hers. Then she answered, "Of course." No hesitation, no condition. Within this dramatized scenario, Camilla finally understood something the adults had made far more complicated than Charlotte ever intended. Charlotte wasn't rejecting her. She was protecting a word, Grandmother. That word belonged to Diana and Charlotte's mind, and forcing Camilla into the same place would never create affection. It would create resentment. So Camilla made an unexpected decision. Don't call me grandmother. Charles looked toward her. Even William seemed surprised. Camilla continued. She told Charlotte she didn't need a special title. If their relationship became meaningful, it should happen because Charlotte wanted it, not because palace etiquette demanded it. Charlotte looked relieved, but Camilla wasn't finished. She pointed toward the keepsake she had just returned. Your grandmother is part of your story. I won't ask you to change that. William's expression softened. For perhaps the first time that evening, Diana's name wasn't dividing the room. It was connecting it. Then Charlotte did something small. She moved closer to Camilla. No dramatic apology. No sudden declaration. Just a quiet gesture that said more than another royal title could. Charles watched them carefully. The crisis appeared to be over. But William noticed something. The box Camilla had brought contained more than the keepsake. Underneath the lining was a folded piece of paper. Old, yellowed slightly at the edges. And Diana's name was written across the front. William immediately looked at Camilla. What's that? Camilla's expression changed. She hadn't intended for anyone to see it. Charlotte looked down at the paper, then back at her father. Suddenly, the room was tense again. Because Camilla hadn't simply preserved one object from Diana's past. She had apparently kept a message connected to her as well. And whatever was written inside could completely change the meaning of the gift Camilla had just placed in Charlotte's hands. William reached for the folded paper. Camilla stopped him. Wait. One word. And the room became tense again. Within this dramatized scenario, Camilla explained that the paper wasn't a secret letter written directly to her. It was an old note that had remained with the keepsake when the item was stored among family possessions. William stared at it. Have you read it? Camilla shook her head. That surprised everyone. For years, she had possessed something connected to Diana and had deliberately left it unopened. Charlotte looked at the handwriting on the front. Then maybe it isn't meant for us. William glanced at his daughter. Once again, Charlotte had reduced decades of complicated history to something remarkably simple. But Camilla disagreed. She pushed the note toward William. If anyone decides that, it should be you. William didn't open it. Instead, he looked at Camilla. For most of the evening, Charlotte had been accused of refusing to accept Camilla because of Diana. Now Camilla was doing the opposite. She was refusing to claim something from Diana's past that wasn't hers. William slowly took the note, then placed it back inside the box. Not tonight. Charlotte smiled. Camilla did too. The paper could wait. What mattered was what had already changed. Charlotte no longer looked at Camilla as someone trying to occupy Diana's place. And Camilla no longer needed the word grandmother to prove she belonged. Charles finally relaxed. The family gathering that had nearly collapsed over one word seemed to have found an answer. But there was still one question nobody had resolved. What would Charlotte actually call Camilla from now on? Charles jokingly offered a suggestion. Charlotte immediately shook her head. Then she looked at Camilla and gave an answer of her own. It wasn't grandmother. It wasn't Queen Camilla. And it certainly wasn't a replacement for Diana. But Camilla's reaction made William realize something important. Charlotte had finally found a place for her, without taking Diana's place away. Everyone waited for Charlotte to speak. The entire evening had started because of one word. Grandmother. Now Charlotte had to decide whether anything had actually changed. Within this dramatized scenario, she looked first at the photograph of Diana, then at the keepsake Camilla had returned. Finally, she looked directly at Camilla. I think I'll just call you Camilla. Charles almost smiled. William watched Camilla carefully. There was a time when that answer might have sounded like rejection. Now it meant something completely different. Camilla nodded. I think that will do perfectly. Charlotte smiled. No forced title. No replacement grandmother. No attempt to rewrite the past. Just Camilla. And strangely, removing the title made their relationship feel more genuine. Charlotte picked up Diana's photograph and placed it beside the box Camilla had given her. Two objects. Two different relationships. Neither needed to erase the other. William finally understood what his daughter had been trying to say from the beginning. She had never demanded that Camilla leave the family. She had simply refused to surrender the only relationship she could have with a grandmother she never met. The stories, photographs, and memories William had given her. Camilla understood it now too. She didn't need Diana's place. She needed her own. As the family began leaving the room, Charlotte walked beside Camilla. Not behind her, not away from her, beside her. Then she reached for Camilla's hand again. No one said anything. They didn't need to. The argument had begun with Charlotte refusing one word, but it ended with something far more important: acceptance without replacement. Diana remained Charlotte's grandmother. Camilla remained part of her family. And perhaps that was the answer the adults had struggled to see all along. Charlotte hadn't refused to acknowledge Camilla. She had refused to acknowledge her as a replacement for Diana. And once Camilla stopped asking for that place, Charlotte finally gave her one of her own.